Hello, good evening, Oral Gibbs, and welcome to Oral Gibbs Live, coming to you live here from World Star Studios at Amsterdam Shopping Center. And you all know this gentleman. A long time I haven't seen him here.
Yes, true.
Mr. McSood, how you doing, sir?
Good, I'm good. Thank you. Thank you. It's been a long time, you're right.
Yeah, good to have you in the program.
Yeah.
And, I always tell people, you're the man that really brought back cricket to St. Martin.
It's true.
But tonight we're here to speak about other things. I know you're chairman of the board of NAGICO Group.
Right.
And the company is, you told me the company is now 33 years?
33 years,
It's growing fast, huh?
Yes, very fast, very fast.
Are
Time flies. To me, I just came to St. Martin the other day, but it's 33 years. That's a long time.
And you've seen the company grow from one small little...
That's right, yeah. In a room smaller than this one. Yeah, much smaller than this one. To where it is today.
And in your wildest dreams, ever thought it would be like this today?
To some extent, yes. In fact, I came to St. Martin primarily because I had this vision for this company. Because I was a 24-year-old in Guyana. I was already a manager, the youngest manager in the history of the insurance company I work with there called GTM. And I had a very clear path to, becoming the top man there. But I always wanted to, even in Guyana, I was talking to friends of mine about starting an insurance company. So when the opportunity came to me that there is this group of local businessmen starting an insurance company in St. Martin, and if I'd like to be part of it, and I would to come and manage it and provide the underwriting and so on, it was sure, And my idea was always that we will grow the company. It was not for me just about coming to St. Martin and have a business or an insurance operation in St. Martin. In fact, we started in 1982, February 1982. By September 1983, I'd opened an office in Anguilla.
Right, that's fast.
Oh yes. so it was within my vision to become a Caribbean insurance company.
I know, coming from Guyana to St. Martin, it's not a very small island.
That's right, yes. Well, but it's beautiful. It is beautiful. I mean, I came here and I loved it. The next year, early the next year, I was offered a job in the Cayman Islands for 3 times the pay and much better benefits, car, house. I mean, I could spend a lot of time talking about that. And I came back to St. Martin, and after 2 weeks, my wife asked me, well, so you're not gonna, what about a job in the Cayman Islands? I'm not hearing anything from you. And I said, well, I'm not gonna take the job. She says, why? But it's about 3 times the pay, and we're gonna get an air-conditioned Toyota Corona at that time. And I was driving a little stick shift Starlet that had no air condition. And she said, the benefit is good. They'll pay for our apartment, a 2-bedroom apartment. I was in a 1-bedroom apartment at the time. And I said, so she said, well, so why not going to take it? And I said, well, I don't like the Cayman Islands. I like St. Martin, and I have a vision for NAGICO in St. Martin, and I want to stay here and accomplish it. And that's exactly what I did.
So I guess you have no regrets of staying here.
No, not at all. Yes. But I'm saying St. Martin is a very beautiful island. I travel to virtually every island in the Caribbean, and several islands I visit every year. And I would still rate St. Martin as one of the nicest, and in many ways. There are some that I love a lot as well. Grenada is such a beautiful island, amazingly beautiful. Antigua. Beautiful, with a lot of beaches, and Dominica, it's the nature island, it's the rainforest, and so there are a lot of beautiful islands in the Caribbean. But St. Martin does have that blend of beauty, beaches, shopping, the diversity in St. Martin is beautiful.
So cosmopolitan.
That's right. It's so diverse. There's so many people, different cultures, different languages. These are the things that actually make St. Martin very beautiful.
Yeah. So you're truly born in the family. Everyone
That's
is
right.
there. Yeah. And so NAGICO is now in how many islands in the Caribbean?
26 islands.
26.
26 islands in the Caribbean.
Any plans to expand beyond?
Yes,
that?
we have continued. Finally, we should be moving in to Guyana by the end of this year. It took me a long time to move back to Guyana, open an office.
Was it difficult?
Well, no, not that it was difficult. It was, you stay committed to certain parts of the territory, and Guyana it wasn't an easy. It's not an easy place to get to and from. But nowadays, it's getting better. Liat have flights regularly there now as well, as Incelair has a flight that goes there regularly, and you have Caribbean Airlines. So it's much easier to get to it and back, and that has made it easier for us to go into Guyana. We have also started the licensing process to open up in Suriname. I don't know how long that will take. I'm told that it might take about 6 months. So before the end of the year, I hope to have the license in Suriname as well. And we have also started the licensing process in the Turks and Caicos, which is much more north, because we opened in Bahamas, and the Bahamas office will help to manage the Turks and Caicos operation. They're very close to each other.
How's it been in the Bahamas?
Excellent, very good. We only opened there the end of 2011, with zero business, of course, and an unknown company. But we are hoping to write about $10 million in business by the end of this year.
They're very patriotic there.
They're very patriotic, very. But, most places in the world, people I have found, even in the most patriotic place, most people are looking for the best prices with the best services. That in the end is what matters to people a lot, And NAGICO does have very good products. We are a very reputable company. Our name is built on trust. Everywhere in the region you go, people will tell me. I go to the airport and the immigration officer says, "Oh, I have my car insured at NAGICO." I said, "Right, that's nice, but why did you choose NAGICO?" I said, "I don't know. I think we trust that company," and that's important. You build a company based on trust, and in fact, that is our vision. Our vision is if you see the NAGICO visionary statement, it says to be the most trusted insurance company in the Caribbean. Not necessarily the biggest, the most trusted. And we try to live by that here in St. Martin and everywhere else.
The trust is very, very important.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
very crucial in this business anyway.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, but I think in every business,
But more so in this.
But in this particular business, yes. But we've lived through in the 1990s all the hurricanes. You know about that,
Right.
OG. I mean, from 6 hurricanes in 5 years. We had the volcano in Montserrat. We had earthquake in Antigua. We have floods in St. Lucia and Dominica. You name it, and Trinidad, and we've come good every time.
So would you say that between 1995 and 2000 was the most difficult period for the company?
Yes. Not just us, our company, but a lot of other companies. There are other companies that have probably had more difficulties, actually, since 2008, after the financial collapse virtually of Europe, and almost America was on its heels, or on its knees, when they had the bailout plan had to go in place for a lot of companies like AIG, which is
I was just going to ask
the
you
world's
about that,
biggest insurance company, and it almost went bankrupt in America.
Were you concerned when you heard about AIG problems?
I was not particularly concerned because we never really had any reinsurance with AIG.
Okay.
Our reinsurers are with big European companies and Lloyd's, And so I wasn't so concerned about that. In fact, following 2008, 2009 collapse, Stanford collapse, Clico, Bico, all of them had a lot of problems. And I actually started a whole expansion drive in the Caribbean following that, during that period, because I was quite confident that the world is going to change and NAGICO is going to survive all those difficult financial years. And we're financially a very strong company, and we have very sound reinsurance. I have a superb team of managers. You know, there's no company in the Caribbean have more qualified insurance professionals than NAGICO, just none. We have 26 chartered insurance underwriters in NAGICO. A lot of them St. Martiners, actually, yeah, born here and studied insurance right here, and you know, we moved them. I have one chartered insurer right now in St. Lucia. I have one who's running the office for us in Curacao, is a St. Martiner, and a lot of the young people are studying, and so we're a very, very driven company, very professional company. I would think, anyway. I believe that very much. You know, you don't grow the business unless you have the right people. People means everything. Your staff, your management. It's crucial in this business. So I trusted my management. I trusted my people, and we had the financial resources, and therefore we expanded. So there are companies who really struggled through this financial period. That's why Clico went bust. You have British American had lots of problems. Gulf was in a lot of problems until they were bought by Asuria now. So a lot of companies struggled, but NAGICO expanded during that period. We were doing very well as a company.
Are you worried about expanding too much?
You should always worry about expanding too much, anybody. As they say, you know, you stretch the rubber band too much, it will burst and sting your fingers. So I've always done things in stages. Like following 1989, Hurricane Hugo, I started an expansion to other islands like Antigua, Dominica, the BVI in the early 1990s. And then you allow that to run its course, let them mature, let them start doing well on their own, and then you start another expansion drive. And then after the 1990s, the end of from 1995 to 2000, well, there was a fairly long pause, and then we started again. We moved to Aruba, went to St. Kitts, we went to, you know, different territories, and then we paused again. And then came the financial meltdown, and then we started expansion, and we opened Bahamas, Grenada, St. Lucia, the French territories. We are the only Caribbean, non-French Caribbean insurance company that have a license to do business anywhere in French territory.
You know, the French are very difficult when it comes to insurance.
Oh yes, it's not easy, but you know, they're very strict at regulations and laws and procedures, and so that's the French. But it is challenging, but I would say that it helps us to be better as well. So my team have to live to those standards, and we have to live to European levels in all French territory. So it's challenging, but it's good to, you know, to be faced with such challenges and come through good.
You know, September 5th this year will make 20 years since Hurricane Lewis.
It's true.
That was
really
was a nightmare for almost everyone in this island.
Yeah.
Do you think we've learned any lessons from that time in terms of insurance and homeowners, etc.?
Yes, I think so, and I hope people don't forget, you know, because people's memories can be quite short. But yes, we've learned a lot. We learned to build better to begin with. I think properties now are better built than they were before 1995. A lot of people now are, you know, putting hurricane shutters in their home and building with hurricane clamps and what have you. Although a Category 5 hurricane will not respect any of these things, you know. I mean, Category 5 hurricane just will destroy anything if possible. You know, it's just that powerful. And therefore you have to make sure that you know, have your insurances in order still. And we have to make sure we have our reinsurers in order. So for a company like NAGICO, if another storm hits St. Martin, and for the sake of argument, it cost you know, $300–400 million, we will pay it and wouldn't worry about it at all.
So what was Lewis like for NAGICO in terms of payout?
Very testing, very testing. In the from 1995 to 2000, 1999 inclusive, we paid more than $200 million in claims. That's a lot of money, but for all the hurricanes combined. And I think the most testing thing would have been the strain on the staff. As you know, you get used to, for example, going into the office and you have maybe 3 or 4 claims people. Well, we have more. We have a full-fledged, we're probably the only insurance company with a full-fledged claims department in St. Martin. And we have a lot of people working in our claims department because for me, you don't build trust unless you pay people and pay them promptly. Yeah. And, you know, and you need the people to do that. But, you know, imagine you're used to, let us say, every day you get 1 or 2 claims coming in, and you have, you know, 5–6 staff processing that, and then you go to bed one night and you wake up the next day and you got 10,000 claims, but you still have the same staff. You know?
That happened in 95.
Oh, yes, yes. So, you know, you get everybody involved. People from accounts department have to work in the claims department, and, you know, it was a very trying time.
People were working weekend and everything.
People were lining up at my home and, you know, wondering what's going to happen. And my son reminded me the other day that in our house, for example, hurricane claim files were in every room, living room, everywhere they could see. We had an orange color for our files that we were putting, and, you know, it's like my home was a sea of orange. But, you know, those are days you work 18–20 hours a day without thinking about it, month after month. But so very challenging personally. Financially, it was also challenging, to be honest. You know, the central bank was concerned, but, you know, in fairness to the central bank, they came in, they checked that we had reinsurance, and they really left us alone to carry on doing our work and making sure that we get people claims paid, which we did. And then we had to re-engineer the company almost to cater for another incident like that, buy reinsurances differently, manage the business better. Today, for example, you know, if there's a storm signaled out there, we have what you call a catastrophe management team that goes in high gear 2 or 3 days before. Like Gonzalo, for example, we had, you name it, there's a whole team that we've got, from generators to gasoline to containers, everything.
Wow.
Oh, yes.
You're prepared.
Very prepared, yes.
You know, after Gonzalo, I got a phone call from one of your workers. I found that was really, really incredible. Okay. I was impressed.
Okay, thank you.
She called me, said, Mr. Gibbes, I'm calling from NAGICO. She gave me her name, and she said, calling to see if everything was okay, you had any damage. Thank God I had no damage, which was good. But I thought it was a good gesture on behalf of the company.
Okay, well, thank you.
So I don't know if that was something done throughout the company, but I really was impressed, I'll tell you.
Well, we have many thousands of people, so it's not likely that we would have done that for everyone. But we would, there are certain people that we would take, and it's not a matter of preferential treatment necessarily, but we know, for example, you run a television program, so your equipment is your livelihood. The news is important for people to get information about their hurricane, you know, claims and preparedness and procedures. We would put things in the newspaper, so we would have called the newspapers as well, and we would have called all the radio stations and the television. And since you have a TV program, you probably got a call mainly from that point of view. Then necessarily we are going to call 10,000 people, because that's very difficult to do.
Now you've you've moved on from just home insurance and car to other areas of insurance, right?
Yes, as we do life insurance now. We do medical for a long time. As you know, you're one of our clients. And after the collapse of British American, the British American Dutch Antilles was there available for sale, and we bought British American in the Dutch Antilles only.
Oh, okay.
And we really, then that's when we really started. That's in 2011. Just before that, we had started the NAGICO Life, but by buying the British American company, we are much more established in the life business, not only in St. Martin, but that gave us inroads into also Aruba and Curacao and Bonaire in the life insurance business. We were already there for a number of years in the non-life business. But we do all the time. We do bond insurance. We do, you name it, we do it in the world of insurance.
Explain that one for those who don't know what bond insurance is.
Oh, bond insurance. There's some people, if a contractor is building a home, they will insist on that contractor having a bond, so that in case the contractor default, then you can get it insured. Here, banks normally provide that service. Normally, they will insure they will provide a bond to the insurance, performance bond, we call it. But so we don't sell as much of it in St. Martin, actually, but in places like Trinidad, where you have many contractors, and St. Lucia and other islands, and so where the banks don't readily provide that kind of coverage, then we would provide it.
There's also insurance that is sold during construction times.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the CAR policies, construction all risk. Yes, and that is one that is likely to suffer quite a bit of damage during a hurricane.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because it's open. It's flying stuff. You have materials that will get washed away or just blown away.
Yeah.
And you get a lot of damages from CAR. So.
You get people buying those policies?
Oh yes, yes. Well, they should. The banks will insist if they have a loan. If they don't have a loan, well, they take their own chance. But a lot of people do come and insure.
A lot of people still sometimes confused, or they don't understand the whole issue of insurance in terms of on the insurance and over insurance. And I know that was an issue in 95. Some people say, well, you're insured for X amount, but you're really on the insured. And sometimes people still don't understand that. Right.
Well, it is that, you have to pay the premium for the amount of risk that you bring to the company. So if you have a property worth $1 million, but if you insure it for $100,000, and then you have a $50,000 claim, well, you're not going to get $50,000. You're going to get a portion of it because you haven't insured fully. And a lot of people, you're right, they don't understand that. We try to make sure that we educate people about it. In our renewal notice, we print in red. Sometimes make sure you renew, you revise the value of your policies. We send out inspectors. There's 2 people that we have that go out and look at the home and recommend to you values. We ask the agents and the brokers to advise clients about values. So we do our part, but sometimes people buy, a lot of times, unfortunately, people buy insurance mainly because they're getting a loan from a bank, rather than the fact that maybe a hurricane might blow the thing away or a fire will destroy it. They buy it mainly because the bank says so. But if you have a loan at the bank for $200,000, even if your home is worth, or your building is worth $300,000, you just insure the $200,000 because you think that that's all the bank will need.
That's a mistake.
And that's a mistake, yes.
And then what happened in terms of insurance too is that a lot of people see it like, well, I'm paying money, I'm not getting nothing back, you know,
Right.
unless something happened. And sometimes for a lot of people, if they don't owe the bank, they'll say, well, I'll take my chances. That's a big mistake, right?
Of course, yes. I mean, and it's human nature. I mean, I could understand it, but to be honest, according to the insurance rate that we will charge, right? If people do the mathematics, they will insure. That's why almost 99% of Europeans will insure their property, and Americans, because they're a little bit more, let us say, sophisticated in their thinking. But compared to the value of one's property and the premium rate one charge, you will probably have to pay insurance premiums for probably 75 years to 100 years before you pay as much in premiums than if a fire will total loss your house or a hurricane will wipe it out clean. Now, not a lot of times the hurricane doesn't wipe out the entire home, but what I'm saying is that, you know, 100 years is a long time for nothing to happen, you know. So it's quite risky when you don't do the insurance. You know, that's why in most parts of the what I will call the industrialized world, people insure properly in 100% because they have done the maths and they know that, you know, the chance of nothing much happening for 75 plus years to my home is very small.
Right.
You know, you have a greater chance that a major hurricane come through and do damage to you, you know, like happened in Hurricane Lewis. I would say that more than 90% of people, almost 100%, 90+% of people who were insured with us in Hurricane Lewis in 1995 had a claim. Some were not as large, some were total losses, some were massive losses, and some were relatively small, but they all had a claim of some size, and therefore there was always some risk. You know, of course, the insurance makes its money on the basis that every year only a certain amount of people will have losses. And that's the actuarial scientists. They work those numbers out and determine the rates to charge.
Because you couldn't do it if you were having to lose every year. That would be quite.
No, exactly. Oh no. Well, what would happen is that we will charge a premium that will match that, but most people might find it unaffordable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The comprehensive home policy, you also have something in there for burglary and all those.
Yeah, homeowner Super Plus. Yeah. Yes, we have a Super Plus policy, and we are right now going to be coming out where we will offer to our clients who have had no claims in the last 5 years. If you have a homeowner's policy, we'll give you the homeowner Super Plus without any extra charge. It's a new initiative we're launching, and the Super Plus policy covers everything. Covers liability. If somebody slip and fall in your house and break a leg, they have to sue you, or your dog bites somebody, or your child, you know, stone someone and they lose their eye or something. You know, there'll be all kinds of protection, things like that. Burglary, you lose your credit card and the cost to replace it, or somebody misusing it. There are certain limits, but all kinds of various coverages, yes, that are there.
We have been experiencing a lot of burglaries on the island in the last 5-6 years. Do you see a number increasing claims in that area?
Yes,
yeah.
It's been a lot. And we've had some pretty, I would say, scary ones as well, where people will actually go in with masks in stores and with gunpoint and actually hit people with gun. Thank God they haven't shot and killed anybody so far. But, you know, you worry that whether it's not just a matter of time this thing will happen. It is scary. We have people go with motorcycle, and there was one case we had where somebody goes with a van and parked the van in the middle of Front Street. Guys came out in masks with a motorcycle, robbed the jewel store, and then get away with the motorcycle.
And leave the van there.
And leave the van there. So when the police, even after they call, the police have nowhere to go because the road is blocked.
Wow.
You know, it's almost like movie style.
Wow.
Yeah, that happened sometime last year. Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah. So everything is, you know, and it is getting like that. Thank God the amount of cases we have of violent breaking and entering into people's homes so far have not escalated. And over the last few months, I have to say that the police have, I think the police have stepped up their measures, and we noticed there is a little, you know, well, not a little, but a significant, you know, decrease in the amount of the very vicious type of armed robberies in Front Street, Back Street, and so on. So kudos to the police department. They're trying hard, I believe.
I noticed NAGICO's been working closely with them.
And we have been working very close with the police on all of this as well. We've met, especially with Mr. Carl John now, who is, I think he's the acting chief of police. I don't know, Chief Commissioner of Police, but yeah, Mr. Carl John. He's very serious about doing proper police work and really working hard at curbing crime and traffic and so on. And yes, we have actually been quite happy to join him in the help and initiative to first educate people about crime and then see how we can help.
It's amazing because when you look at NAGICO, and 33 years ago, you came to the island, and now the original owners are no longer actually original owners.
Right.
The company was sold out basically to you, right?
Well, no, to some other people, and then I also, there was this particular instrument where I was able to work, develop, make it profitable, and buy back into the company.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
So it's still a company where there are a number of shareholders.
There are a few others, but I am the main one now.
Yeah. And so when you look at the insurance business in a small island like St. Martin and seeing how NAGICO has grown, what kind of advice? A lot of people look at you as a very shrewd businessman. You understand the business. How you see the island in terms of business? The reason I ask you this question too is because over the years, we always hear about red tape and bottlenecks and so forth. You think it's easier to do business now in St. Martin or more difficult? Or is that a
No, I'm just thinking. It's probably more difficult now. I think there's a bit more, process that is involved. But the world has also changed. It's not just St. Martin. In our business, for example, things like anti-money laundering regulations, FATCA is coming, that America is insisting that if you insure an American, you got to report them and what they insure and what have you. That's putting a lot of strain on people. Integrity is a big thing. Well, it's the going word right now, right? The Integrity Commission or Integrity Chamber that, that the St. Martin government is battling with right now. So the world has changed a lot. To some extent, things are probably getting, as I would say, more difficult. You have to go through many processes, I think, now. So if you want a building permit or so, I think gone are the days when you pick up the phone and call somebody. That doesn't happen. You have to go through and put there and there and there and there and there, and you follow a whole chain. And the same for business license, I believe. But in addition to that, we have also seen economic problems since 2008, 2009. And therefore, business itself is much more challenging now. It's very, very difficult, Front Street merchants, for example, will tell you, and Chamber of Commerce will tell you that the returns and the sales at stores and so, and have declined a lot over the last few years. Even though cruise ships might be coming, they're not necessarily spending as much, and their options are wider. Before the ship lands here, it's probably land 5 places before, you know, and maybe people already bought, or I've been on some of these cruise ships, I'm sure you have too, and in fact, they're selling you everything on the ship.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so so the competition is fierce. Everybody wants to do business. It's not easy, and you know the macro elements of any economy are crucial for business development and growth. No matter how good you are as a businessman, and I think I'm a pretty good one, and therefore I can survive in good markets and bad markets, but most people, including myself, will be challenged in any market where there is little growth. And St. Martin from 2008, for the last, let us say, 6, 7 years, we have really been seeing what? 0 to 1% growth in the rate in the GDP. It's very difficult to make the same amount of money when the GDP growth is relatively small, so just 1% maybe, let us say, but your cost of doing business is higher. You know the cost of doing business, is it the same?
It's very high.
Well, exactly. I mean, compare your cost of 5 years ago to what it is today. But it's not necessarily that you are able to have an increased income. So where the income is going to come from if the GDP growth is not there. So the macroeconomic principles are crucial. And St. Martin haven't really had any great growth. I mean, I would ask you, for example, whilst there are a few things happening on the governmental side.
And on the private sector.
But the private sector, not much has happened. I mean, you name me one really big investor that have found it so exciting to do business in St. Martin in the last 5 years.
And that's why I always say we need to see investment coming in the private sector.
Of course.
And it's taking too long.
Right, it is. And I mean, you know, really big new project. There are not many people that are lining up there looking to invest tons of money. The government is trying, and you can't fault them for trying to keep things. In fact, they must and they should.
Right.
But it has to go hand in hand. Where private enterprise and government have to work hand in hand together, because if government is doing all the investments, then it means it's at the expense probably of private enterprise. You know, so it has been quite difficult. And then there are increase in taxes. Turnover taxes gone up. We have
I was just going to ask you about that one.
Right there. So, but our employees. I mean, I can't tell my employees year after year that I can't give them an increase. You know, so your employees expect an increase because their cost of living is going up, their utility bills are getting bigger, and therefore they're asked for increases. But the macro principles remain the same, or sort of virtually flat. So it's very challenging to do business. But if you are pretty savvy and you manage your cost well, and you have a vision of what you want and you work hard to that vision, you can still succeed. And at NAGICO, we have succeeded.
Let me ask you, how do you feel about the turnover tax, though?
Look, tax is necessary in every society. I mean, how would government run things?
But do you think that that is the right kind of tax for this economy, or it should be some other form of tax?
To be honest, I don't know if it is the right kind of tax. I think that it probably could have been structured better. Maybe a sales tax would have been better, in my view. But I am no
I feel the same way too.
Expert in the tax. But the problem with turnover tax is that it creates an escalation of the cost of things. So if you have to buy something and then you have to sell it back every time somebody else buy and resell the same thing, you pay a tax on it. So everybody have to pay that turnover tax. And the biggest problem I find anyway in St. Martin, we're having a meeting with myself and a group of business people, a meeting with government tomorrow to discuss all sorts of things, and tax certainly will be one of them. And the big problem that you have is when there is not sufficient compliance. I mean, you've been reading it all over. There's so many businesses that are not complying with taxes. Right. So what happens is people who are willing and want to pay tax, people like myself and so on, I pay millions of dollars in taxes a year, you know, between NAGICO and car companies and so on. So when you want to pay the taxes, then yes, you pay it, but then if you read in the newspapers that maybe 40% of the business are not complying with tax, then they're making turnover, but they're not paying the turnover tax. And then if you hear that the government has planned to increase turnover taxes, says, Jesus, they're going to come at me again simply because I have good computers and every sale that I do, it goes. I mean, every sale that NAGICO does, or the car companies that I work with, or even the car rental, because the $1.50 franchise, everything is computerized. So everything have to go through, and I want it to go through the computer, because if not, I can't even control my employees, you know, from stealing or from doing hanky-panky stuff. So people like us will always get targeted, but then you hear that, you know, 40% of people open a store, or I don't know. It could be a hairdressing salon. I have no idea, and they're not paying their turnover tax. Whereas if everybody comply and everybody have, the burden gets less. Government need tax. Let's be realistic. And the truth of the matter is that the most successful countries in the world are the countries where people pay taxes. You know, they're not tons of people lining up to go and live in Angola, even though there is zero tax on salaries and profits and so on. People, you know, I mean, Angola has its charm and it has its value, have its thing, but the infrastructure is important for business. If you don't have great infrastructure, it doesn't encourage great business, doesn't encourage people to come and visit and to do business. So you need the infrastructure. And how would government do the infrastructure without taxes? So taxes are very important, and government need to charge taxes. And whether the turnover tax at 5% is the right thing, I don't know. I personally, my own personal opinion is that you should have it, you know, very simplified, and people must know that it is simple, the tax that you're paying. Let me ask you, for example, do you have the courage to do your own taxes?
You can't do it. It's too complicated.
No, precisely. You have to get some accountant with all kind of high brains to do this. People will comply much better, in my opinion, when it is simpler. So they need to simplify the system. And it could be that the turnover tax is the way to go. And maybe it could be the turnover tax could even go up a little bit more. But if you do that, then you can't keep the profit tax the same. You can't keep the employee taxes the same. I mean, how do you attract proper manpower? I have a big trouble attracting proper high-quality manpower. Okay, I train a lot of people locally, so that helps me out of that problem. But the tax is a problem. If somebody comes and says, well, look, I will come and work for you, but I need $5,000 a month net in my hands, you got to pay that person $10,000 because nearly 50% is going to be taxed. So you can't have such a high employment tax, high profit tax, high social tax with SZV and all the AOVs and all the other taxes that goes with it, you know, and that high turnover tax as well. So they need to be simplified, and it needs to be done properly, and everybody should try to contribute, and then we'll have a much better place.
I can't agree with you more. Let's take a call for you. Oral gets live and caller. Hello? Yeah, caller? Hello? I can't agree with you more. I think what you said is so important. I don't know if the government get it, but it's something that the government needs to really look at and include businessmen like yourself to really get the feel. Over the years, you know, we've had a lot of multi-annual policy plans where government brought in business and other parts, and then nothing really happened, or you give suggestions and nothing happened. And I think it's important that we hear from people like you, and what you just said a while ago is very, very, so I think it's so important that we at least hear from people like you, because, for example, the government had this whole discussion on counterpart policy, which I think, I personally, I'm against it, because the government tried it and it never worked for the government, and now to push it down the throats of the private sector, it's just not fair.
Mm. Yeah, but you know, you have to start though on the basis. I can't totally fault government for thinking this way, because government duty is to protect its citizenry, you know, and we have to understand that. It is necessary, I think, that we start on the basis that people in their own country must be able to work and must be able to get quality work, and they must be able to be at the top in management and everything, you know. So that's the basis, and I have tried to do that at NAGICO. I have many, and at the car places, many of the people working with me are St. Martiners, and they're managers, and but they're not so plentiful.
So it's difficult to find qualified.
Extremely difficult. So nothing is wrong with having that ideology or that vision of having, you know, opportunities for the St. Martin residency. You know, that is a noble thing, a noble cause. But you can only do it if the workforce lend itself for that.
And it's not there right now.
And it is not there.
But then it's also a problem with government, because
training has to happen. You know, lots of things have to happen. I keep saying that the main thing that needs to happen, I believe, is that we have to do something to make sure the university here in St. Martin is upgraded to a very high level. We need to keep a lot of our brains here. You know, I admire the fact that people want to send their kids to school abroad. I did the same with mine, but I made sure mine come back, you know, and work and serve. But a lot of people, you know, every year if you have a couple hundred of your best minds that are going away to study, and then they go and they study, and then they don't want to come back.
It's not a matter, you know, but you know, I got to add here quickly, it's not that they don't want to come back. They're not welcome back. And I think the government has to lead by example. Because when you look around the government today, in the last 4 years, we have brought in people from all over in government to work. And when you have your young St. Martiners that go abroad to study, it is so difficult for them to be brought back.
The expectations must also be measured on point of the people or those that want to come back. Yes, you come back with a degree, but you can't expect to start at the top of the tree either. You have to expect to start somewhere and then work your way and prove your worth. Because I believe most employers only want to have good employees, OG.
They don't care where you're from, they want a good worker.
Exactly, that's all they want. And there are a few who have come back. I have, for example, a guy who just finished his insurance degree, but he went away and studied and came back to St. Martin, and a guy named Jean-Louis Edward. And he's the one I told you is now in St. Lucia, working in the office in St. Lucia. But he's from St. Martin. He went away, he studied, he came back. And I wouldn't say they're not welcome. I welcome a lot of them back. But a lot of times, you know, if they do come, there's a lot of training has to be involved. The government should also make sure that people understand that when you're coming back, that you don't have necessarily a special right because you are from here and you went away and studied and you come back. Yes, you have much more privilege than anybody else, because look, for me to get somebody else to work other than a local, I have to go through a whole rigorous process of getting people's documentation right. That is a lot of work, trust me. I prefer if I don't have to do it. But people's attitude also has to be realistic, you know. So you have to come back and you have to start from where you are. You have to have an attitude that is right. You have to have a willingness to work as hard as the next man. You know, there is no free pass.
Well, the times have changed.
There is no free pass. Everybody and every employer, at least for me, I speak for myself. doesn't really want to go through a lot of hassle to bring people from all over the world if the quality is here, you know. It's something that I believe that government need to concentrate on. The training has to be right, but the point I was going to make about the university is the amount of money that is spent every year on scholarships and cost of people that go away and don't come back, right? And those that come back, I'm not saying all of them, but those that come back probably have had a difficulty making it abroad, but those who make it well abroad, they're not going to come back here because the wages also are not the same. You don't expect to go to Holland and earn in euros and then you come back here and earn in guilders, you know. That does not encourage anybody, but can the employers pay the same euro wages?
Well, I think they could.
When they're barely surviving, a lot of them
I think they could, because if people can come from all over the world, you look at Imran today, I mean, there's a lot of people doing very well.
Right.
We shouldn't have our young people feeling that there's no future in this country.
No, I agree with you.
That's my problem. That too many young people feel that their future is not in this country where they were born. We other time, like I have just about a minute, and I want to thank you for coming in. I want to thank you for also supporting us over the years. You've been the longest sponsor with us here at World Stars.
I like to support people. Local initiative means a lot to me, and I think what people like yourself do is wonderful, and people will not always agree with your view. I wouldn't always agree with your
I'm
view.
radical.
No, I wouldn't say that. We are entitled to our views, you know, and everybody should have their views. You have yours, I have mine. But anybody who has stuck as long as they have to this program, like you have done, you know, that's the real hallmark of success. I tell my kids, I says, you don't tell me that you are successful until you have successfully done something for more than 3 years. You have to do 3 years minimum consistently, and consistently well, and then you're successful. You've done it for nearly 30 years.
Over 32 years.
I know, I've been with you from almost day one. So yes, and I applaud you for it as well.
Well, thank you, and for coming in, and wish you all the best success, your family. All right?
Thanks a lot.
Thanks. And that's it for now. See you next time. Till then, good night. Take care. Bye.